You're listening to the Echo Ratings Eventing Podcast, the show with a light-hearted look at the eventing world, all of the big event previews, reviews, and special guests, and of course, backed up with all of the key Echo Rating stats. Welcome to the Echo Ratings Eventing Podcast. Welcome to the Echo Ratings Eventing Podcast, and it should be Badminton week this week, but it isn't, so we thought we would celebrate some of the biggest records at badminton over the last decade. Sam and Diarm with me, and we are going to do the show a little bit differently, so we are recording it to video, and if you want to watch it and watch us, then you can do so as well. And if it all goes horribly wrong, I'll have to edit that bit out. But team, I'm really sad because we should be at badminton. It's usually like can I call it an annual pilgrimage? Is that a bit weird?
Yeah, a bit weird. That would suggest that we were going, that all roads lead there, but a
lot of roads lead there.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, yeah, it's our time of the year that we're normally together, Nicole. We normally have badminton, and then we usually see each other again a week later at Chatsworth. So yeah, it is different. We're recording on Tuesday, so normally this is the kind of last minute packing. We would, I guess, be arriving on Wednesday, and all of the fun that comes with going to the media centre. It's something we've talked about as part of the Riders Connect campaign. There's so many people that you see once a year, and a lot of it remains the same year on year. So going into the media centre for the first time, getting all your badges and your accreditation and everything, getting your seat. Everybody sits in usually pretty much the same seat every year in the media centre, so you know who's over there and who's here, and that bit's fun. Yeah, that bit of course is something that we all really miss.
It's the anticipation, I suppose, isn't it? I mean, Sam, you've been there from a rider's perspective, the kind of the build up and the tension to get there.
It's the one place where you're very much under pressure. Really, I think everyone from a working point of view, like it's a massive week of the year for, in terms of that, like we're all working, whether we're riders, whether we're media, whether we're organizers, course designers. It's a big week for everyone, but it's the one time you never complain about your job. You know, you're under pressure, you're working hard, but my Lord, is it a privilege to be there? So it is that's what you miss, like just seeing that course for the first time, seeing whichever of the trickster course designers are there. Trickster's probably an unfair word, masterminds, whichever one of them is there and has laid out the course. Everyone wants to see it, everyone wants to go out and see what they've got in store for us. So I miss all that. I miss nipping out for a bit of, whether it's frozen yogurt or it's some kind of snack that you don't get kind of every day of the week, some kind of exotic wrap or something.
Where do you eat? Do you come up to the main area?
Yeah, I go with that kind of, there's a food walk, isn't there, where you can get like, nice pulled pork and stuff, like you just get access to such nice, organic, fresh food that you wouldn't normally get.
We never make it down that far, Nicole, do we?
No, I love how we're talking about one of the biggest events in the world. Sam's ridden there, he's worked there, and it's all about the food aisle.
Yeah.
We get in the media centre, you get like a little packed lunch every day.
It's a very good packed lunch, to be fair.
Yeah, sponsored by, I think, was it, it used to be Mitsubishi who used to do it.
It's very good.
Yeah, so you get a little bag, you go, so there's like a table with everything laid out at lunchtime, and you can't go before like 12 or half 12, I think. And then you've got like few different types of fancy crisps. Like they're not really crisps, are they, Nicole? They're like
hummus chips and things.
Hummus
really
chips and that kind of stuff. And then you get like sandwiches and wraps. And can you have a glass of wine? I don't know if you can.
I think you can at lunchtime.
5 o'clock onwards, I think.
People judge you if you start drinking on the job at lunchtime.
You're working. But yeah, that bit's cool.
It's a really, really nice setup, actually, and it's that kind of family and, like you say, the Riders Connected campaign. One of the things that we're really missing at the moment, not only are we not getting the eventing, but we're not getting the community around it as well.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk on this show about some of the records at badminton over the last few years. There's a few that immediately spring to mind. We're going to focus on, I think, 5 or so in particular. Sam, I'm going to come to you to get us started. Give us our first record.
Yeah, well, if we're reviewing last decade, sorry, Paul Tapner, I'm going to scroll over you in 2010, even though it was a good year for me then as well. And I'm going to go to 2011 for Sir Mark Todd and Land Vision. And this is going to be one of the things that I think every eventing enthusiast that follows us in the sport, and when they look back, I mean, we were looking back today about was it Sheila Wilcox, the only person to win it 3 times. We were looking at female riders. She won it 3 years in a row. But I think when people look back, they will see Sir Mark Todd wins in 1980 on Southern Comfort. Sir Mark Todd wins in 2011, 31 years later, on Land Vision.
There's pretty much no other sport really that you would see that in. Like absolute pinnacle event, wins it, 31 years apart.
Maybe golf, maybe McIlroy or someone could do that, or I don't know. I mean,
it's
Tiger
a really big ask. Like when you, I don't know.
Oh, I mean, they have to go and do it. I mean, I think it's highly I mean, it's hugely unlikely. 31 years is just, even if you are a child prodigy and you're winning it at 19, you're coming back at the age of 50 to win it.
He has 28 years between his first and last Olympic medals. And actually that could have been 32 if he'd have won a medal in Rio. But that longevity at the very, very, very top
to get it in again. Well done.
Sorry, Dan. Sorry, just reminding you of that. But that longevity at the top in what is actually a fairly tough old sport on the body, Sam, is just
tough on the body, tough on the mind. I mean, it's 3 phases of you listen to the complaints after, did dressage judges see my flying change? Did they agree or not? Did the horse behave or blow? I mean, there's enough hardship and mental torture just in the dressage phase, let alone that what's to come in cross country with the braveness and the toughness, and as you say, the physical wear and tear that we have to take, and that so many top riders in the sport have had to take as well.
That's just in competition. Don't forget as well. I mean, think of the amount of chance that it takes to get, firstly, to have a horse of that has the raw material to be able to win a badminton, to arrive at badminton still, fit and fresh. Think how many times that doesn't happen for people. You can have a brilliant horse and they just don't get to start badminton from a timing point of view. Like we've heard those stories multiple times. You can have you can be a massively talented rider that just never got the horse that was a long format horse. You potentially never got the weather, that actually it could be, there's so many of these variables. And then to be able to say, okay, then bring it into the competition, that flying change doesn't get missed, that, you were through that skinny combination and you were still, you kept all the poles up to get all of the chance right in a competition, multiplied by all of the chance that it takes to get to a competition, and then say you did it 31 years apart. I mean, incredible achievement.
Yeah, and actually, if you think badminton in 1980 would be a very, very different competition to badminton in 2011. They carried weights back then. They carried lead on the cross country and things, and they had roads and tracks and steeplechase, and all of those things sort of came, went, and then evolved. And so the sport itself has changed massively as well over that period of time. I think that's a really fascinating one. How many 5-stars has Mark Todd won?
So that was his 11th, Nicole. He actually, that's his only 5-star win since his comeback. His previous 5-star win before that was Burley in 1999. So that was 12 years. That
made him, that one win sent him to the top at the time. Is that right? I think he was the most 5-star. He'd won the most 5-stars or the 5-star equivalent.
Himself and Ginny were both on 10. So Ginny Lang and Mark, and they were good friends. And I would say when they both had retired, when Mark retired the first time and they were both on 10, they probably thought that was a fairly fair representation. But then Toddy had to come back. And I mean, on your point, Nicole, regarding the different types of sport, really, I think, people talk about maybe the cross country not being as long and things like that. The flip side of that is the standard of dressage. And Mark would have had to have adapted, and it would be like the game of golf or tennis or football or whatever, changing dramatically and having to adapt your style, adapt your training. He trained really hard with I think he trained with Charlotte Dujardin quite a lot as well. But the test he produced, yeah,
she's all right,
pretty good, yeah.
Yeah,
but he had to show that, with Land Vision would have been a very different type of horse to what he would have won on as well. He was much more bred for dressage, so he managed to produce the low score that was required. And then my recollection will be how hard he had to work to bring Land Vision home. He was quite young at the time, the horse.
Was it the horse 5-star debut?
Yes, yeah.
So
He'd been with Townend.
Yeah,
he'd won Blenheim, I think, coming up into that.
The 8 and 9-year-olds, I think.
I think so, yeah. He won it at 10. Vision was 10.
Yeah,
but that was his. So that was his 11th 5-star win. Nicole, it took him to the all-time most winning. He did on 10 different horses.
That's amazing.
Charisma was his only dual winner, winning 2 Olympic Games, and the rest were all. So to win 5 stars on 10 different horses is amazing. Williams won 14 on 12. He's the only one that can have bragging rights over Sir Mark in that regard.
William overtook him in that 5-star list within a couple of years.
William was on 8 at the time. He won 2 at the end of that year in 2011. So he won Burghley and Poe, which would have taken him to 10. He would have matched him the next year in 2012. So they'd both been on 11. Then he overtook him in 2013.
So that is the first, I would say, Nicole, of the record-breaking moments, top 5 record-breaking moments of the decade. If we are going to do this as a top 5 or as a 5, not necessarily in order, but I would say
we do years in order.
Years in order, okay.
Very hard.
Nothing happened in 2012, yeah.
So 2012 was the year that we lost it to wet weather. 2013 was the year that we've spoken about quite a bit previously. That was the year of champions, Sam. That was that really amazing field.
We've christened it that.
It wasn't the field of champions.
It might not be something we see again. You had because of the 2012 cancellation. This is the role that badminton did play. We saw something that I'm sure we'll never see again, which is that 2 riders were going for a Grand Slam in 2013. So guys, when was the last time we had a Grand Slam attempt? It was when Michael Young won it, or has Oliver Townend had one? Oliver's... No,
this was before that.
Has he not had one?
No, it wasn't. He had one in
2018. Yeah.
2018, yeah.
Yeah, he was close. He's come very close, Oliver. God, he's been close on a few times, on a few occasions. But think how hard it is to get that. Anyway, so we have 2 going into 2013. So that's the starting point. That's the warm-up. And they have 2 horses each. So William Fox Pitt, in the form of his life, William Fox Pitt won a 5-star every year in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 6 years in a row he won. So he's the maestro. He is he's out there in front, winning most rider. Andrew Nicholson was in the form of his life as well. He won 3 5-stars in 2013, and he had won in 5-stars in 2012 as well. He was in the form of his life, and he was going for a Grand Slam. So you have those 2. You have Michael Young bringing Sam to badminton for the first time. They're the Olympic champions. They're the reigning Olympic champions. You have Sandra Ofarth, who's an individual medal winner with Opgun Luvo coming out of London. She goes on to become world champion the next year. You can go on and on like this. And Clifton
was the winner, wasn't he?
Exactly. Yeah, on Promise.
Clifton
but even if we just name those horses, so William had Park Lane Hawk, Andrew Nareo, Labiostatic Sam, Opgun Luvo, Clifton Promise is a full thoroughbred. Those horses are out and out gallopers. They are out and out 5-star horses. And I just wonder, are we ever going to see a field like that again, where people say, okay, it's not a championship year. It's 2013. It's between Olympics and WEGs. We all go to... If you have a horse, if you think you're anyone in this sport, and if you think your horse is good, you go and prove it at badminton in the spring. And that's what they all did. That's what the sport did in 2013. The best of the best truly went and took each other on around a proper track. I remember actually, I'll still have arguments with Lucinda about this. Well, as in I'm conflicted as well, because there were a lot of people clear inside the time. There were 6 people finished on their dressage score that year, and people said, "Oh, the course is far too easy." I think
just listed those names that are
exactly.
like the quality was incredible. But anyway, 2013 was a year in itself, but that's not one of our record-breaking years. So 2014 is, and 2014 was that cross-country day that caused carnage.
Where were you watching it is the first thing, because I think this is one where everyone remembers. I hope you are now that I've asked you.
I was at home. I was watching it at home. I remember watching it. Wasn't at Badminton. Remember thinking to myself, God, the weather's filthy. I'm glad I'm not at Badminton.
Yeah, it was.
Pretty miserable. Were you there, Diarm?
No, I was. I think my first Badminton was the year before. Sam, you were there 2013 as well, that year as champions. I was still quite new to the sport, I guess. So by this stage, I loved it. But my first year was 2013, and then 2014. I watched it with Camilla. I think Sam, you weren't there in 2014, weren't you not, Sam?
No, I'd dislocated my shoulder. So I missed, talking about missing events. I was in there in 09 and 10, and then missed it in 11. It was cancelled in 12, was there in 13. And then 14 was the one year we knew it was going to be wet as it was rolling in, and I'd missed it again. And Bushman obviously would have liked those conditions. He went on to put in a lovely cross country round at Weg later that year in the wet. And I remember it was the first time I ever had a kind of grown up moment where it's always great when you're, I'm Irish, I have a cross country horse, he likes wet weather, and you're there going, oh, this would have been my year, this would be my year. And I kind of just took a check and said, this was
not
this is no, this anything could happen here. No one is safe. You're in a war zone this year.
It was pretty similar. It was, again, I think Jiff would probably have fit a reasonably similar profile to George, in that both of them would have loved the really tough cross country challenge. And again, 2014, Jiff was at that WEG team with Ireland with you, and had that clear round in the wet in France. But yeah, I think she was pretty much the same. I remember watching it with her, and I don't think it would have been one of those years.
Jiff, he would have moved, because remember, the wind was actually the big thing. Like, Jiff could have taken off for an oxer, and then just, like, if he was going into the wind, he could have just been blown back and just been like, no, not going over. So yeah, what a year. And I suppose to give it some context, 45% of the field only completed cross country, and the next
got to the end.
Got to the end.
That's not even jumping clear, so they just got round.
So less than half. And to give that context, 60% is the next lowest in 2017, and there's one at 65%. But generally, you're talking around 75% of people will complete cross country. They'll of course have penalties, and only 29.5% jump clear. So less than 1 in 3 people jumping clear. Fastest round of the day, Tim Price on 11.6 time penalties. That's 29 seconds over the time. He was the only one to break 30 seconds. Crazy Izzy Taylor. Busy Izzy got busy early, and she had 20 penalties on Matilda, but she was the second fastest of the day with 14.
She was first to go, was she?
Very early.
In the top first three, yeah. She was in the first 3 out.
Yeah. And that was the year. So Sam Griffiths and Paul Brocker won. They were 25th after dressage. Normally, when we're at Badminton, you certainly wouldn't really be looking much outside the top 10 as to your winner.
No, definitely. No,
the big one on that, Nicole, is that if you're going to have a big climb, and we have horses that we talk about as the big climbers, we normally always associate that with finish on dressage. Okay, my dressage was a little bit higher, but I was able to pull it back by having inside the time round, or by keeping the rails up. Sam Griffiths and Brox added 17.7. Is that correct?
17.6, yeah.
And Knockdale.
Yeah.
So
they were eighth. They were 8th fastest. So that's quite to be 25th after dressage, and to be only they weren't the Tim Price round. Incredible.
I mean, that kind of puts that day into context. But for me, Nicole, that would go in there. So it's a record-breaking day, I suppose, in terms of the difficulty of the cross country and the conditions that came with it. But it's also one I would say. I mean, we've talked about it on some of the greatest shows previously. Spike talked about it in terms of what it felt like in the stables that night, how quiet it was. Like there was a lot less horses preparing, obviously, for the next day. But the memorable cross country days, and we probably associate badminton in particular. When you drill down into it, it probably all feels like it crescendos on that Saturday, and then we have to clean up and sort out who's going to win it on the Sunday. But really, the Saturday is the day of badminton, and I think this decade, I would say that Saturday is probably one of the most memorable, if not the most memorable.
Yeah, it's one of those cross country sort of days that you just look back and you go, and this happened and that happened. Didn't Andrew Nicholson and Nereo leave a leg coming out of the new
hind leg? And he just
and it was the most random fall, and like you thought kind of at the end of the day he was coming out, you're like, oh, it's all right, Andrew's going to do it, and then he didn't. William Fox Pitt fell, I think, 3 from home or something. It's just
and he was flying it. I think in terms of the like victory being snatched from the I was going to say, Joe. I'm really going to. I'm not wordsmith.
Defeat being snatched from the victory. Yeah, he was. Yeah. That was Park Lane Hawk as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, and his that full thoroughbred again, the maestro in the saddle, and that's what we were all thinking. Nereo and Park Lane Hawk were both late in the day. Yeah. And we knew the lay of the land.
And you said it, Nicole. They were pretty close. Were they on course at the same time potentially?
Very close together. Yeah. I think they were both good on time. They were both good on time when it happened. Like you were kind of watching them, feeling quite relaxed. Like, oh, order's going to be restored here, sort of thing. Yeah, like exactly. They'll go out and show everybody else has been really, making tough
landslide.
work.
I was looking at William, thinking he's going to have 4 show jumps in hand. Going in, either of these two were just going to basically win badminton there and then on cross country day.
The drama there, that's what we love, isn't it? They're the days that we look back on and we go, God, remember when that happened?
Last one on that, Nicole. Last one, that's just one of my favorite moments. Okay, Andrew Nicholson was on Quimbo. He went out first on Quimbo, and as he came up, Quarry was at the end, and Huntsman's Close were at the end of the course. But as he galloped up towards Huntsman's Close, he just put his hand up in the air between fences and went into the stables. He's like, I had enough of this.
Did he? I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the year he did that on Quimbo. And
people were like, where's he gone?
Yeah, I mean, he was just like, no, I've had enough. I'm by the stables. I'm going to go back.
It was a tough old year. The next year we're going to talk about is 2016. So we go from sort of being one of the highest finishing scores in the decade to what would have been the highest finishing score in the decade to the lowest finishing score in the decade. And it was the year that they won their second Olympic title. Michael Young, Le Biesthetic Sam, he was going for the Grand Slam. He had won Kentucky the week or a couple of weeks previously with Rakana. He was on fire, and you kind of go, oh, do you know what? Is it going to be predictable? Is he going to go and do it again? But he just absolutely obliterated the rest of the field and won by a huge margin in the end.
Was this our first year, Sam? Was this Eckerating's first year, or were we the year before?
I think it was we were definitely there. 2015 was the year we were there unemployed, but made our debut, and you were running around beside Claire Balding holding a clipboard by the end of it, in between stints.
2016 then we were working there for the first time.
Exactly, yeah.
And 2016, Nicole, I mean, again, you're going back another Grand Slam attempt, as you say. But I think 2016, certainly from my memory of it, was... We talk about 2013, all of the quality coming into the field. Sam had now cemented himself, even though you mentioned Sam Williams' 5-star dominance, really, I suppose, like a 5-star per year up to that point. He'd won the year before.
Obesity Sam had basically won a 5-star a year for a few years.
Well, hang on.
He'd had a sort of a dip in form, hadn't he, just prior to...
Yeah, that was it. Sam debuted, he won the bronze medal in 2009. Okay, 2009 European Championships. he wins an individual medal. Then he obliterates everyone at the World Games. He wins
he won
the
a
Europe.
5-star that year as well, didn't he? In 2009, did he win?
Yeah, so he won Lamoulan in 2009 on his 5-star debut.
Yeah.
Then he also took individual bronze at the Europeans.
Yeah.
So that's sort of his first 2 big results. Then he goes to his next 5-star was the World Games in Kentucky, won that.
Smashes everyone. Like he won that by over two fences. You know, he's about 8 marks clear there.
2011, he wins the Europeans at Lamoulan.
Yeah. So he has the chance to become the first horse in history to win all 3 individual gold medal titles, championship.
Yeah, which he does at London, 2012. Yeah. Then he's second at Badminton in 2013 with a pole down in the show jumping, which would have been uncharacteristic for him.
The last one.
Then he goes missing.
Then he goes missing a little bit. I mean, his missing is that he doesn't do a 5-star in 2014 because that was the year that Mickey took Rakana to the World Games. But he then
Halonka to the Europeans, wasn't it?
Yeah,
good knowledge.
Halonka to the Europeans in 2013. Yeah, and he took Takanu in 2015. So in 2015, Sam finishes third at Kentucky.
But 2 fences
third at Lamoulan, and then he wins Burghley. So he does 3 5-stars in a year and finishes third, first.
Yeah. But what I think is interesting about this time, and it's something we talked about a lot in Sam's career, and maybe it didn't set in fully till later in terms of, I mean, it's a difficult thing even to say, but that kind of tiredness or boredom with the greatness, maybe that hadn't set in yet. But there was still a feeling at this time that I think by now he had kind of cemented himself into definitely hot favorite for an event like this. Would you agree with that? I would, from memory, I would say.
But he kind of needed it. Like we've mentioned his CV.
Yeah, it could be a turning point. It could be a turning point moment for him because
to be the GOAT, to be the greatest, you know, like he's up,
yeah.
And he hasn't got his second Olympic medal yet either. So like he doesn't at the moment. Yes, he won. I think winning Burghley was massive because now you can't just say he's, you know, a championship horse. Yeah.
And was it always the plan? I can't remember. Maybe you guys remember. Was it always the plan that Sam was going to go to the Olympics that summer, or was Rakana in the number 1 spot at this point?
No, it would have been. I think Sam. He was older, but he was. I mean, he's fully was eyes on. Like he took one. So he's going for the Grand Slam. He took 1 horse to Kentucky and 1 horse to Badminton. He said, you know, he had won Burghley. Rakana goes to Kentucky, she'll win that bit, and then Sam goes to Badminton, he'll win that bit, and he did it. He executed it. Only young could do it, and to execute it in that style. Oh, he led the dressage like that's.
I mean, and let's talk about his dressage for a second because Sam, one of the sort of the trademarks of Lubias Satit Sam's career was that he would very much be in touch after the dressage, but I think he came from. Was he 11th after dressage in Rio or 12th?
In London, I think he was 11th. Yeah, and then he was still off the pace a little bit in both Olympic games.
It wasn't often that he led from the front, but he was one of those horses that was so consistent. He was fast, he was clear cross country, and then he would more often than not jump clear around in the show jumping. So he would end up sort of crawling his way to the top. But at Badminton in 2016, he literally went in 34.4 he scored at the time. So that equates to what, 22.9 now?
Correct.
I mean, just incredible start. And he ended up winning, I think he had over 2 fences in hand, 9 marks he ended up winning by.
Biggest ever.
Biggest ever.
Winning margin. I found what I wanted to find, guys, in terms of that GOAT moment or, you know, potential turning moment.
GOAT, by the way, is greatest of all time. Just I didn't, when people first started talking about GOATs, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Roger Federer is the person that they normally talk about GOAT, don't they? And you
but that's what we mean. We're not calling it.
But basically what I was trying to say here is Young won on Sam, who was a late replacement for Fisher Takanu, who had got an infection in July in 2016.
Was that in 2016? Ooh.
Now, just think these turning moments in terms of, you know, a horse's career. As you say, Sam, that 2016 was an important win in terms of how we saw him. And then obviously we had...
I mean, God, you're talking about the person going, the reigning Olympic champion is going to defend his title. and his backup horse is the Burley and the Badminton reigning champion. Like, that's mad in itself. Just remarkable.
But he does those.
Was the European champion, I guess. But as that competition turned out, Sam was potentially a much better fit.
They wouldn't have expected Rio to be as tough as it was. So I think that's worked out for the best. But Sam did those 3 5-stars in 2015, wins badminton and the Olympics in 2016, and still comes out and pushes Nereo all the way in 2017. Yeah. I mean, the sound, and he's doing all this after that 2009, 10, 11, 12 thing that we're talking about. He's just
on this. So the record was the record finishing score, and
the record winning margin.
And the record winning margin. But did you mention what it translates? I think it was 34.4. I remember writing it so many times.
Yeah, 22.9.
22.9. I mean, to win badminton on 22.9.
Amazing.
For a horse that you don't or hasn't been traditionally associated with a strong start. I mean, 22.9. How many people have done it in their career? At any level, ever.
Yeah.
How many horses have, that like there's been to finish on your dressage score at badminton is a huge achievement, and to start on a score 22.9 is it?
How many people have finished on their dressage score at badminton this decade, Sam?
There's been 18 last decade. It's over now.
Oh my god, that would be a good game. How many of those would we be able to name?
Have you got the list?
I don't have the list, but not many of the winners do. I don't think if we go back. So
why don't we set this as a challenge for the listeners? Yeah. Name your 18. The first person to send at Eventing Podcast on Facebook or Twitter the full list. The first person will get a podcast hat.
Oh, okay. That's not worth it for all that work.
18 is a lot of work. I think just start naming them.
Fair enough.
Sure. Who would your bet be on? Who would do it first?
Somebody in the Flick group, I bet.
Sorry.
Well, do you think we'll set the challenge? Like for the hardcore fans, if you want to get 18.
If you got 18, what would the first person who did 18, what would we give them more than a podcast at, Nicole?
We'll figure something out. We'll send you a nice treat. We'll do something.
It would have been. If we'd done one of those games that they do on the radio, right, where you have a load of callers called up, and whoever completes the 18, so the first person would probably get about 8 or 9, and then they get one wrong, so you'd make them hang up, and then you get the next person on, and we'd see how long we could be here all day though.
We would do that live.
18. That editing would send.
All right, then we'll send them a hat. We'll send them a t-shirt.
Can I get a Neck Ratings hat, please?
You've got loads.
We'll sort you out. Sam's actually hiding. He's using hats to hide his lockdown hair. Oh wow, that's quite.
What's next? We're only on number 3, guys.
All right, go for the next one. So 2017 is the next one, which gives.
No, hang on, that's Nereo's.
Oh, 2018.
Mind you, that was amazing, Nicholson. His first badminton, his only badminton. Yeah. He finally does it. He'd broken his neck.
Like 50 attempts or something. But he doesn't make our list. 2018, Janelle Price, who was our first female winner in 10 years, I think.
Was it 10 or 11?
10 or 11 years.
Double girl power anyway. I think Lucinda Fredericks would have been.
Yes. And I remember having a conversation with people the night after cross country, and talking about Janelle was leading going into the show jumping, but Oliver Townend Ballamore class, who was going for the Grand Slam. Am I right in thinking that was the year he was going for the Grand Slam? Was in second with Ballamore class. And in third was Ros Cantor and All Star B. And it was very, very tight. And out of those 3 horses, the horse with the best show jumping record was Ros Cantor and All Star B. And Classic Moe hadn't jumped clear in the show jumping in something like her last 10 internationals. She'd always added penalties. And you and I, Diarm, went really, really strong on Ros Cantor is the one you need to watch here, because All Star B had an incredible jumping record. And we were like, no, Ros will jump clear. Ros will put the pressure on. Janelle won't jump clear. She hasn't jumped clear in 10 runs or something. Ros had a pole down. Janelle jumped clear. And
I remember leaving the media centre. It's another one of those fun times. So you get all these little moments that happen the same every year. And I think as I say, Sunday always feels like a little bit of a cleanup after the day that had come previously, and you've got your morning show jump. So you've got your start with your horse inspection. That's always fun. Make sure everyone's there and they're all in. Okay. Then the riders all walk up. A lot of the riders then go and walk the show jumping for the first time. So you see people walking around that morning. Then you get your first batch show jumping. Then you have a break, and then the stadium really fills, and you're kind of into the last 2 hours now, or hour and a half of badminton for that year. And you're going to, it's going to turn, and so many times it's turned on just a single pole, or just a single second, as it would be a year later. But with this one, I remember leaving the media center to go into the stand, and Jack Green was past me. Jack's, who's been involved with New Zealand for a long time, very good friends with Janelle and would know Classic Moe very well. And she said, like, what are the chances here? And I kind of smiled and said, like, not great.
Not great.
Yeah, I said, no, I don't think so, Jack. It's look, it's a fact, isn't it? The horse hasn't jumped clear. She hasn't not knocked one pole. I think, when you look at who you're going up against, and when you look at the likelihood of them knocking a pole, can't see it. Obviously, Jax is the first person I see afterwards. And I think Janelle mentioned you in her interview, because Sam, you had mentioned generally, female at 5-star and how long it had been. I was just looking at it here. You had Pippa Funnell, you'd Mary King in 2000 badminton, you'd no 2001, you'd Pippa 2002, 2003, 2005, and then you'd Lucinda 2007. So you'd how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 female victories between 2000 and 2007, and then nothing. Then you had this gap of all the boys. And so we had definitely talked about it from a BBC point of view in terms of how the story could play out. We had definitely talked about it, I think, in the previews. Maybe we'll get those out on the podcast this week, Nicole, like the From the Vault.
We're going to do some badminton specials, so some throwbacks over the last few years of our badminton episodes. Yeah.
Can you imagine if we simulated that one? All-Star B having a rail and Classic Moe leaving it up. But that is how dramatic this sport gets. And it was just, and as you say, Diarm, the ending. What's quite interesting is name the last female winner to win badminton not on a mare. The last 3 female winners of badminton have all done it on a mare. Yeah, it was.
Headley Britt was Lucinda.
Yeah, it was Pippa in 2005. Primrose Pride.
No, I loved 2018. It was one of my favorite years, actually. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
There's if you think the moments as well, like I mentioned it a couple of times, the show jumping can feel not anticlimactic or
it can feel like an afterthought sometimes. You have, particularly in a year like 2018 and 2017, like both of Eric's first cross-country courses were
there's so much drama on the Saturday.
You couldn't leave the screen. You couldn't stop watching it. It's just brilliant viewing. And so then you're right. Like then it's. But then
you kind of you maybe emotionally you go through a little bit of a dip. But what I think brings it back up, and certainly if you look at these years, 2017 you had the Nicholson story. So like there's and like there was a lot of drama in that show jumping, as I know all too well from.
That was meant to be Hail Bob Day.
That was Happy Hail Bob Day.
That's one of my biggest memories, is watching the 2017 show jumping with Moody.
That wasn't for me. But what I'm saying here is if you do go through this, what can bring it back is the personality who has, because it is a second, say, for Piggy a year later, and Oliver, and the excitement around Piggy French finally did it. Piggy French and the journey Piggy's been on, and suddenly all of the stories arrive in a single moment. 1 second changes what actually the whole story is going to be now. And you look back at all of Piggy. In this case, you're looking back at like Janelle and Tim's journey from New Zealand, and that story begins to come out in this 1 minute where actually she's now done it. She's won badminton. You look at them fundraising to get to the UK for the first time. You look at the journey that they went on at 5-star. You start talking about Classic Moe and like will this ever happen again? You start breaking it all down. And, of course, it did happen again for Janelle later that year when she won Le Moulin.
Yeah.
But that's the bit that I think you go through this, and then suddenly you've got this moment of personality, and that brings it all kind of to actually win badminton is such a massive, special thing.
But I think that's what it is, isn't it? Like winning badminton is humongous. It's one of the biggest events. Some people would argue it is the biggest event in eventing that people really want to win. And so to get that kind of makes lives, it makes careers, it makes dreams come true, and it sort of has that lasting impact. The final record.
Can we do one more pop quiz, Nicole, before we go?
Go on then.
Female winners of badminton.
Yeah.
Bringing it all the way back to the start.
Okay.
Are you on Wikipedia already?
No.
I can see your eyes going down. That means you could be on.
Yeah, you were. Stop it, Nicole. Put the machine away.
Okay, then we've only had one person who won it 3 times. Did Sam mention that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you said who, though.
I did. You just don't listen to me.
Whoops.
Do you want me to say again, Dee, or is that your question?
I'll say it again.
Sheila Wilcox.
Okay.
We had quite a few winners in that kind of, is it late 50s? Sheila Wilcox was early to mid 50s, I think.
Mid 50s, early 60s. She won badminton just after winning the first ever Burley.
Or was it the other way around? She won badminton and then she won the first ever Burley, is it not?
I thought it might be the other way around. I'll have to check now.
She won.
I can tell you that her badminton win was 62. I'm pretty sure her Burley win was 61.
Yeah, you're right, actually. Her badminton win was 62. You're right.
And is this the first ever female winner
of Burley?
Burley.
The first ever winner of Burley, full stop.
First ever winner of Burley.
61.
First ever winner of Burley, okay.
She was also a badminton winner.
Right, okay.
Same horse. Do you know who she is? Sam does, but maybe Nicole.
I'm thinking of Winners Avenue at Burley now, because I remember stopping at Winners Avenue a lot when I walked the course heavily pregnant. I stopped to inspect every single plaque.
I'll give a clue to listeners.
A musical instrument.
Both the riders, before you say, hang on, this is your. You can tell me if you needed the clue or not. But both the rider and the horse are triple barreled. So there's 3 names.
Yeah. So
double barreled surname and a triple.
I know it.
Okay. Nicole, I'll do it this way, right? You ready?
What are you doing? Oh, he's trying. If you're listening to this on a podcast,
it won't work.
He's trying to like sign language it to me. I'm going to say it's Annalie Drummond-Hay. Amelia Monarch. There you go. Because Annalie Drummond-Hay, am I right in saying she's Izzy Taylor's auntie?
God, is she? Great knowledge.
I think. Just double check.
I don't study family trees. They're not in our database.
I just will check that, but I think she is.
Emily Drummond-Hay family.
We're all frantically Googling. I'm sure she is.
Let's talk about her. She won the European Pony Championship at the age of 16.
Her great aunt. There you go. It's her great aunt. So that was close, pretty close. Let's talk.
Please not do a podcast off Wikipedia, Jim McBurn.
No. Can we go on to our final record that we want to talk about on this badminton special? Because it is from 2019, so it was last year, and it was a Thursday morning. It was super quiet in the grandstand. It was really sort of. You know what Thursday morning dressage is like. It's the crowds aren't particularly massive. You get a lot of first sort of rides for the riders that have 2 horses coming forward. And Oliver Townend, Kilner, Brad and Evo came into the arena. And I remember watching this because Kilner, Brad and Evo, we know, can do an amazing test. There'd been a lot of talk about whether he was going to badminton or whether he would go somewhere else. And there was sort of this unknown quantity of them coming into the arena, and you're like, that looks amazing. But it's Thursday morning. Nothing ever really happens on Thursday morning. We're not going to get, he'll go into the lead, but we're not going to get a record. And he went sub 20, which set a badminton record that was previously, wasn't it going back to 2000?
Yeah, it was Darian Powers and Andrew Hoy. It had stood for 19 years. I remember very rarely in dressage do you get it, where, I mean, okay, you know when you're getting a really good test. Like, we can remember those moments where you're like, okay, we're halfway through this, and this is starting to...
Pretty good, yeah.
And like, you've got the second part of the test, and you're like, okay, they're holding this. This is still... Look at the score.
And there's lots of
He
nine.
never made a mistake. He just never flinched. Like, for anyone watching, whatever there are, 20 odd movements, 22 movements or something, he just relentlessly hoovered up eights, never let them drop, and then put in nines.
I think came in and he got tens for his final halt. Like,
that was the moment for me, Nicole. I remember, I think we might have watched that together. I don't think we were actually out watching it. We watched it on the TV, yeah.
No, I was actually in the grandstand. And I remember watching it with, so Toby would have only been about 6-7 months old. And I remember literally timing it to the moment, because I wanted to watch this test going in, and just thinking, please just enjoy watching a few horses trot around for a couple of minutes. And he was deathly silent for the whole test. And then the moment the test stopped and sort of things moved on, he wouldn't sit and watch dressage any longer. But I saw that test.
I remember
texting you, Dee, going, oh my God.
It's happened. I remember being in the media centre, probably people... Sam, it was like that moment where Michael Young had jumped the second last on Sam at the Olympics in 2016, and he was already more than 4 marks ahead, so he now couldn't lose it.
Unless he fell off.
You're waiting for that last... You're correct, technically correct, yes. But you're waiting for that last one to stay up, because we wanted that double FOD record. You know, he had been... Sam was the only horse to do it. To finish on his dressage at an Olympics, happened in 2012, but then he repeated it in 2016. This was one of those moments, Sam, where you knew he was going into the lead, and most people were just excited that he was going into the lead, but he had finished somewhere around 20 before the collected marks came in, and I remember being like, no, wait, like 20.5 is the record, like this could be and you very rarely get that in dressage. Yeah, it was so exciting.
It's a real moment as well, I think, where because a lot of spectators, it got huge reaction. The video was watched by thousands very quickly. It is that is the modern sport. I was about to say unfortunately, okay, because that's my opinion, but it is the modern sport that we are now a highly skilled sport, and I think that the future of eventing is that our riders become viewed as the most skilled horsemen in equestrian sport. For years, I would have looked at Marcus Ennings and show jumpers and thought, do you know what? The level of riding that they're showing is just, it's a step above us. We're a bit more rough and ready. But now what we're doing in the dressage and the show jumping, and then on cross country with all the accuracy, we're just a highly, highly skilled sport. And what Oliver did was a highly, highly skilled moment. It was perfection, it was detailed, it was precision, unbelievable. But those are the kind of moments now. It's these record breaking moments and stuff like that. Like, and it's important because we can't, well, as much as I think 2014 cross country day was like, oh wow, you know, we can't put that on telly every day of the week, you know. No. In fact, we have to be careful about putting it, you know, the reaction that will get. Even what are we, six years on from then, I'd be worried about what kind of reaction we get if we showed 2014 again. Whereas with 2018 or 19, sorry, that record, that is a level of skill and training. And for anyone who didn't hear Oliver Townend's press conference, someone asked him, who have you been training with? And he says, oh, well, I've got a set of mirrors and I've had a few judges in to give me feedback.
And he watches videos of Carl Hester or something, didn't he?
Yeah. It's just his sheer approach and attitude, attention to detail, perseverance, perfection, strive for perfection, and then nailed it. Brilliant.
And then the other thing that kind of sticks out for me is that he then came in with Ballamore class on Friday afternoon and went second to himself. I don't
remember. Another record. It was 21.
Yeah.
I'll pull up the score here now, but it was another record, basically to be first and second after dressage, but to be averaging about, it was 21.1.
So he
was 19.7.
Pretty close to breaking the record on both his horses. I mean, it's just absolutely insane.
Bonus points if you can tell me who was third after dressage at Badminton in the record-breaking dressage year.
Wasn't it Toledo de Cursa?
Nicole Brown. I'm impressed.
There you go. It was because he did an amazing test and then was like 30 seconds
sweeping
late
chimneys.
Going out the. He was too busy sweeping the chimney.
Then he went out to dress the fence again
house.
across country course.
Exactly.
What earn a living. I think the last thing I would say about that, Nicole, is that Sam, it kind of touches to your point in terms of the skill and the recognition of it. For me, there is a moment there where we have associated with particularly probably 5-star, maybe championship, certainly 4-star short event rider masters, which was now in its fourth or third three full seasons that happened at this point. You actually have really associated the Germans with the first phase, and Oliver Townend's reputation has been mainly associated with, and maybe Britain and maybe Ireland, associated with really strong cross-country phases. His reputation as someone who could take a horse, any horse, and bring them around a cross-country track, and maybe we saw that again in this competition. But that was his reputation. This was a moment where you had to say, hang on, Oliver Townend, this cross-country rider that we talk about, has 2 dressage tests in the top 3 ever that we've seen at one of the best competitions in the world. This cross-country rider.
And he was known for quantity. Remember his 72 internationals in a season? You know, he was breaking records in terms of just being at every international, be it Ballindennis with 6 horses.
Yeah, he'd stopped that though at this point. He was down into the 50 internationals a year at this point.
But to be able to then bring the quality to that to bring it to a new level, amazing.
The whole of Badminton 2019, even going down to the wire when he lost the win on Ballamore Class because of a second or part of a second in the show jumping, it was just remarkable. But I think the one thing, I mean, sitting here talking about Badminton actually just gives me a massive smile on my face, because it is one of the world's most iconic events. And we've talked about the record breaking moments, but there's the emotional moments, there's the real shocks, there's every kind of emotion that you can possibly muster goes alongside Badminton, and we'll miss it in 2020 massively, but I'm just looking forward to 2021 now. Bring it on.
Correct, Nicole. Correct. It'll be like that for a lot of the events. I think I know Badminton is special and sits apart in lots of ways, but it will be every event is going to feel so special when we get back to them.
Yes, we're going to appreciate them. We're going to really appreciate them.
It'll do us no harm in eventing or in society in general. It gives us a little reminder as to just how special the first week in May is, or the second week in May in this case. When we all go to a field in the middle of England, and all of this stuff that we talk about, like lives being made, dreams being made, moments where collective dressage tests can like have you jumping up and down on your seat, like a single second can change, how you remembered or not remembered. Like, it's so special, and this year out will remind us of that.
It will. We will be bringing you, listeners, over Badminton weekend, a look back at some of our favourite Badminton episodes, some of the previews, the reviews. We might even do a tour diary in there as well, so that you can relive some of the memories over the last few years. I hope you've enjoyed our look back at the records that have been broken at Badminton this decade, and we'll look forward to seeing what records are broken in the next decade at Badminton as well. Sam, Dan, thank you. And we hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Echo Ratings Eventing Podcast. Thank you for listening to the Echo Ratings Eventing Podcast. This podcast is available for free on iTunes, Spotify, Podcast Addict, or wherever you usually listen to your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. Find us at eventingpodcast.com or search Eventing Podcast on social media.